Hello and welcome to X-Plane 11. We've got the default King Air C90 in front of us here, and we're on the ground on the island of Westray in the Orkney Islands. And let's just bring up a map so we can see where we are. So if we zoom out a bit, then you've got Scotland here, Orkney Islands here off the north coast. The yellow plain is where we are. Main island here, you've got Kirkwall Airport, which is sort of large airport for scheduled flights, and then you've got airports on most of the small islands where you get local flights from Kirkwall and flights between the islands. Normally it's a Britain-Norman Islander that's flown between them by Loganair. Today I'm going to try and take the King Air C90 on a tour of the small islands, and the plan is to start here Westray, fly across to Papa Westray, which is apparently, if you look on the internet, the world's shortest commercial flight. Only takes a couple of minutes when everything's lined up in the right direction. Then if we just zoom out a little bit, we're gonna then head down to Eday. I think this keeps snapping to the plane because the little Navmap X-Plane plugins on. Anyway, Eday and then Stronsay. Oops, there we go. Sanday and North Ronaldsay. I think that's it. So we're going to make a kind of V shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 airports total. Okay, so let's have a look at the first leg. So when I first tried this, I kind of thought, well, if you're on a normal sort of circuit approach or whatever, you'd probably want a decent downstream leg and then a turn in. So you maybe, if you head for this end here, taking off from Westray here, we head roughly east and make an immediate turn to the right. If you come all the way down here, it gives you enough time to turn in and it's fairly straightforward. But what the real flight seemed to do is to take off, not go very high, and certainly turn in this direction, basically turning onto effectively almost like a base leg here, and then turn in on final. So it's only really a very short hop. So what we're going to do is we're going to try that. We're going to take off. We're going to take off with approach flaps, which is the first flap setting on the C90. It's got 2 flap settings, approach and landing. Take off on approach. We won't raise the gear or anything. We'll leave the approach flaps on. We'll keep our speed right down. We'll climb to about maybe 300-400 feet, and then we'll turn in and full flap and see if we can land. Well, that's the plan anyway. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so let's jump in. I already have, so the engines are already running, and we're on low idle. We are going to put a notch of flaps on. We've got landing and taxi lights on, all feathers armed. I'm turning bleeds off for this because we need all the performance we can get for takeoff on the short gravel runway. We're squawking 7,000. Let's put that on alt, and we've got altitude here set to 1,000 just as a reminder, but it might beep at us if we get near that, which we might want to use later. Other than that, it's all VFR. We've got the weather set to sort of clear, and I think we're good to start taxi. Let's just engage head tracking. So that's to our left, that's the island of Papa Westray. So we're just taxiing to the runway, which runs sort of east-west. That's left and right in front of us once we reach the end of this taxiway. So we'll reach the end of the taxiway and we'll make a right turn to the end of the runway, turn round, backtrack and turn round, and then head off to the left past the windsock. Okay. quite a tight turn here at the end of the runway. This does actually appear to be a metalled runway and not just a gravel one. Okay, let's brake here so we've got as much length of runway as possible. We'll just double check that we're configured, so trim is centered, flaps are on approach, props are full, taxi light can come off now, transponder is on, alt bleeds are off, and I think we are good to go. Let's double check, yeah, one notch of flaps. Okay, so what it does now is advance the power up to the red line for ITT, so taking your time. Now advance to maximum power, release the brakes, and we can rotate with the approach flaps once we reach about 80 knots. We're still going to be fairly close to the end of the runway. Let's rotate now, and let's pull the power back because we do not want to gain too much height or speed here. We're going to head right to form a sort of base leg. Just watch our height here and our speed. Just keep control. So I'm taking the power down just to maintain this sort of speed and a slow climb. Now if we look left, we should see the runway. It is there. So we actually want to start turning in now. I'm going to be quite tight. I'm going to put full flaps on. I'm just going to kick the power back now because we need to start descending. In fact, we're pretty high here, so this is probably not going to work out very well. And we're also, I think we've turned a bit late. We're not too bad, but we are quite high. Okay, now we want to watch that speed. Don't let it drop below 80. And just try and land as close to the end of the runway as we can. We're probably not going to be able to stop now. So reverses, braking, and the braking doesn't seem very good on the gravel. I think that was a pretty rough landing as well, but we'll have a look in a minute. So we have managed to slow down, but yeah, I think that was a pretty bumpy landing. Let's just check. We still got reversers on. It's probably left the reversers on too long there. It's probably partly why we stopped so easily. So we just turn around and park, and then we'll have a quick look at the replay and see how bad it was. Need to put a bit of throttle on here on the gravel, especially if it's uphill, to even get moving. There we go, that'll do. And we'll park up here, put the brake on. Let's have a quick look at the replay. Let's start back from, well, you can always do the whole flight, but I won't. We'll start from here. I'll have a look outside. So as you can see, there's a runway there. Turns probably a bit steep for being at such a low speed. You don't want to stall. We didn't bother putting the gear up. Now, how do we come in here? We float a bit. Well, I've done worse. We're down on the ground anyway. Okay, island number 1 completed. Let's have a look on the map and see where we're going next. Not quite sure what's going on there. I think that's our flight path there. Anyway, if we zoom out slightly, our next target is Eday Airport. Now you'll see there's two. How do I actually? Let's turn off the aircraft tracking, I think, for a minute, because then it's going to let me zoom better. Let me move around. Eday Airport, there's 2 runways, a grass one and an asphalt one. This is the one we're going to try and land on, so it's 0725. So what we'll do is we'll take off this way from Papa Westray. Follow down the coast of Westray, and we're kind of aiming for this sort of bay, circular bay here, and so we're aiming to come in and join crosswind for we're going to land here, so we'll come in crosswind, go downwind, turn base, and then come in final for runway 25. That's what I'd like to do. So this is probably our longest hop between any of the islands, so we can afford to take off here and get up to about 1,000 feet, get the gear up, get the flaps up, and well, keep the speed down, and we'll see how we get on. So also the heading, let's just set a heading to help us. I mean, that's roughly what, 170, so let's pop back in the aircraft now, and let's set the heading bug to 170, just to give us a guide really, because we are visual, so you don't really need it. We need to reset our trim for takeoff. We'll go back to approach flaps. We already have our lights, so we aren't really going to bother turning them off for this, I don't think, our landing lights. Auto feathers still on, bleeds are off, we won't need them, and that should be it. Good to go. So let's get positioned. So again, we're going to go full power, hold the brakes, and then release and go and rotate just after 80 knots. Okay, so brakes on. Power cone up, watching the ITT. Now we bring it up to maximum. Release the brakes. This is a gravel runway, so it'll take us a bit longer to get up to speed. And we're up. I'm just going to turn gradually left. I'm also going to raise the flaps, oops, and the gear. Gear should have been first. I'm just going to trim a bit here to take some of the pressure off the yoke. I'm going to bring in the power back as well, because I don't really want to go much above 140 knots, if that. So we follow the east coast here of the island of Westray. And also we want to get up to about 1,000 feet, so let's try and we're still in a climb, that's fine, we're trimmed for a bit of a climb here, and then we'll level out. Ahead of us, you possibly already see straight in front of us that sort of circular bay beginning to show up. Now you want to level off soon, we don't really want to go above about 1,000 feet here, sort of circuit height. No need. So we want to try and trim the aircraft for a nice steady level, that's fine. Just quickly looking at the map again. So quick look. Yep, so we are heading down towards Eday. I'm not sure if you saw that. I think I was looking at it without showing it. Right, just take the power back a tad here, because we are still gaining height. Let's put the map on this time. The runway's actually just on the sort of left hand side of the bay there. So we will head over towards that side, and we'll look for the end of the runway to join crosswind, for left-hand crosswind. Now if anything, I'm going to start slowing down now, and I'm also going to stick in one notch of flaps so we've got plenty of time. We can go a bit slower, maybe say 120. Don't want to rush the pattern here. I'm going to give yourself plenty of time to visually spot the runway, line yourself up, also keeping the aircraft trimmed so we're not gaining or losing too much altitude. I don't really want the speed to go any lower, so we'll just put a bit of power in. And there's the runway, I don't know if you can see it, about 11 o'clock in front of us. Running left to right. There is a kind of beacon thing at the end of it. I don't think that in the real world obviously you have that. That's something that X-Plane just does to make it easier to spot runways or not. But so we're going to cross this right hand end of the runway, and then we're going to turn left to go downwind. And just watch our height here. Try and do this one at normal circuit height. See the island there? We'll just cross the threshold here, and then we'll make a left turn downwind. And you can see the runway's kind of the head of the runway. You've got that patch of sand, so that's quite a good, potentially a good marker to look for when we turn back towards final. So let's just give ourselves some time, and then we'll turn gently downwind. Just watch our speed here. Maybe just give us a little bit more power during the turn. And hopefully we should get to the point where we see the runway again, and there it is with the sandy bay at the end. We'll just line ourselves up, and then we're going to head downwind. So as an aiming point, I'm going to use that, the end of the sort of island in front of us with the yellow coloured field or sand or whatever it is. I think if we'll head out towards that point, and then we'll turn base, give ourselves plenty of time. Okay, now when I turn base, I'm going to just reduce the power slightly so that we start a gradual descent. Remember, we've already got one notch of flaps in. We don't have the gear down yet, but I'm going to start turning now. And I'm just going to reduce the power slightly so we start to descend gradually. You don't want to descend too fast, because got to get back to the runway. In fact, there's the end of the runway, that sandy sort of beach area. So now we go base, and we'll start to turn final. And as we've got everything in sight, I'm going to put full flaps on, and I'm going to drop the gear. Full flaps and drop the gear. And we just watch our height here. Find the end of the runway again. There it is. Now keep the power in, because you don't want to sink too quickly. So a nice gradual rate of descent. And also use trim to try and keep the rate of descent about right without too much forward control input. And this is where it's all about watching your speed and watching your descent rate, and having a good aiming point I find it a lot more difficult, I think, without any PAPI lights. I usually end up thinking I'm going to be too long and then almost stalling. We'll see how it goes. They're a bit off centre there. Speed's a bit high. I'm just going to bring the power back. I'm looking to land just above 80 to give us plenty of time to slow down. Well, it doesn't help, a lot of these runways have fences at the end as well, which you think you're going to hit. I have a feeling that was pretty heavy. Just again, we'll turn around and then we'll have a look at a replay. And we'll lift the flaps back up while we're doing this, so head back to approach. Okay, and brakes on. Let's have a quick look. Kind of lost alignment at the end here as well, which didn't help. Not quite sure why that happens. Possibly coming down a bit steep. Yeah. Oh yeah, ouch. That was a bit of a dive. That was not great. Definitely maybe too slow at the end. Let's just have a quick look from inside the cockpit. Did we lose our speed, or were we just no? That's 1,000 feet per minute. Yeah, we were descending much too quickly, and not enough of a flare. Oh, 500-600 feet per minute. Okay, not a good one. Okay. If the plane is still working, let's have a look at the next island. So here we are. We made it to Eday. That's our circuit. Next target is Stronsay. Now, let's just turn this plane off. If we have a look at Stronsay, there's one gravel runway and the rest are grass. I'm going to aim for the gravel runway, the 0220 runway, and we're kind of taking off in this direction. So essentially we're going to take off and just make a right turn, and we're gonna, I don't know what's that, 145 degrees or something. So and that should take us to the airport, where we can come in and make maybe another crosswind join. We'll see how we get on. So I mean that's it's hardly any distance at all, so let's just set the heading bug just in case, give us an idea. Let's set the heading bug for about 140. So yeah, we're going to take off and make a right turn basically, and take off, right turn, and aim for just to the right of this small island here and this sort of bay, and we should see the Stronsay airport. Okay. Checks. So we have to reset our trim to sort of take off position. I think everything else is still set. Flaps are on approach, lights are still on, transponder's still on. Yep, so brakes, power up, Release brakes. Again, look to rotate. Well, before the fence, basically. Like now. Just about made that. Gear up. I'm going to leave approach flaps on for this one because it's another very short hop. Now then, let's turn to our approximate heading. Come up to maybe... Oh, we should come up to approximately circuit height again, so let's come up to about 1,000 feet. I think that's... This is where I might have to just check the map. There should be Stronsay there. And yep, straight in front of us in fact. So let's just bring the power back, so we don't want to go too fast here. It's pretty much the airport ahead of us. Again, so we're actually coming up near 1,000 feet now, so just gonna see if I can get that. Oops. See if I can get the head tracking to work. Okay. Drop down a bit there. Let's try and keep up. Around about 1,000 feet. We're not there yet. We still have approach flaps on. The gear is still down. Well, I'm going to leave the gear down now. It's not much point taking it up and disturbing things. There's the runway. So again, we're going to join crosswind over the threshold here and then make a left turn. You see the end of the runway there that we want to land on with some buildings. There's they're just by the sea, so that's kind of a good thing to aim for as well. Okay, so gonna cross here, crosswind for a short time, and then I'm gonna turn downwind. And tracking's not in the right position. We don't want to gain that much height really. Okay, there's the buildings at the end of the runway. Let's try and get ourselves lined up with the runway. We need to turn around a bit more. Approximately that looks good. So we'll have as our aiming point that kind of island in front of us, the small island in front of us. Let's just trim for staying nice and level for now. Let's just take that power back a bit as well. End of the runway. Okay, I'll turn base in a second. And again, when we turn base, I'm just going to reduce power slightly so that we start to descend. I don't think we've already got the gear down on this one. So I'm going to turn now. Just a slight descent. There's the, I think that's the end of the runway over there. Yeah, let's turn around a little bit more. And I think I'm going to now go for full flaps and turn final. In fact, I think we're a bit late here on turning final. Also got to watch our speed. Yeah, we are a bit late. We've overshot slightly. We should have enough time to bring it back. Again, it's a case of watching our descent rate and speed. See if we can actually get a bit of a smoother landing this time. We're a bit fast, so I'm going to bring the power back and try and keep the descent rate up. It might be a bit shallow here, so I can afford to pull the stick back slightly. Just watch that speed doesn't. Actually haven't had a bit of power here, which is not so great. So a bit of trim. Let's just flare and power back. It's a better landing, but we're a bit long. But it is gravel, so we should slow down pretty quickly. So, welcome to Sanday. Is this Sanday? I think it's Sanday. I'll just check in a minute. Should know. Oh, Stronsay. Welcome to Stronsay. Whoops. Eday is where we were before. This is Stronsay. We'll have a look on the map and at the replay in a minute. Let's just turn round. Okay, brakes. Flaps can come back up to approach. Look at the replay. See if they're a bit better or not. Came in shallower. Yes, that's much nicer. And yep, not so bad, right. Bet we can't do that again. Let's have a look on the map. So we are now on Stronsay, and you can see we took off from Eday, flew this angle, this heading, roughly 140 degrees, crosswind join. Yeah, we kind of drifted a bit left there on the downwind leg, and then a bit casual on the old turn there, which meant we kind of flew too far out and had to correct. But that wasn't so bad a landing. Now, where are we going after Stronsay? Sanday. Now Sanday, okay, let's turn that off again. Stronsay to Sanday is basically what, I don't know, 10, what's that, maybe 10 degrees. So I'm gonna set heading about 10 degrees. I'm gonna take off, and then this is runway 10321. So basically just gonna head in a straight line and join downwind, come up left downwind, and turn base here and try and land like that. So yeah, about 10 degrees on the heading. Look for a gap between this islet thing here and this other leg here, and that's going to be a good guiding point. Again, it's very short, so I'll try and remember to put the gear out this time, but I'll leave approach flaps on. Okay, so back in the plane. About 10 degrees on the heading. Let's trim for takeoff. Approach flaps are on, everything else is already set. And I'm going to put brakes on, advance the throttle, watching the ITT, release the brakes, and we are off. Again, let's try and get the head tracking sorted out without running off the runway. Pull back. Gear up. Pull power back slightly. We want to head in about 10 degrees. Let's try and get some height though, so that we can see where we're going. We are looking for that gap between eyelet and now then. Is that going to be over here? Just pull the power back now as we're beginning to reach 1,000 feet. Have a quick look at the map. So we should have, yeah, we should have this sort of bay in this feature here. Yeah, okay. And the runway's just in there, that's fine. Okay. And let's just give ourselves a bit more height. In fact, I think that's the runway dead ahead, isn't it? We're a bit fast here, so I'm just going to take some power off. Yep, there's the runway dead ahead, so we could actually land straight on, but I'm going to go downwind. Give yourself plenty of distance so that the runway ends up, you know, a good way, 2/3 of the way out your wing or whatever, so you've got enough time to turn. Now, we did put the gear up, but we are still on approach flaps, so just remember that. We just bring that speed back down now to 120 and retrim. Again, I say don't be too tight into the runway, because that just makes your base final turn more difficult. There we go. Okay, pull over, and then we'll try and line ourselves up with the runway heading. Maybe a bit close, but there we go. So my aiming point is going to kind of be the right hand side of that sort of flat looking island slightly in the distance. I'm gonna aim for that. In fact, maybe more the centre of it by the looks of it, because I think we're veering slightly right, so let's aim for the centre. Yeah, I'll kind of drop in here, so I'm just going to put a bit more power in. Fine. And just go a little bit further, and then we'll make our base turn. Okay, let's go for the base turn. Slightly reduce the throttle just so we gradually descend. Take a look, see if we can see the runway. This one's a bit more tree. There it is. There it is. It's okay. That's fine. So if anything, we want to just keep turning here, because I think we weren't really far enough away. So we're almost going to have to end up turning back again. So I'm going to go for final flaps and gear, because I can see the runway. We've got enough height. Don't want to float too much, so just keep the stick forward. Also, don't want to be turning too steeply. Again, we have slightly overshot again on the turn. And we're a bit fast. I'm just going to bring the power back I think we're a little bit high as well, so power back. Just trim for a nice steady descent rate. Really want about 500 feet per minute. So we're doing a bit more than that at the moment.
500.
I'm just going to put some power back in here, as I think we're a bit shallow.
300.
Yep, definitely need more power. Going the opposite way this time. Rather than being too steep, I think we're coming in too shallow. Oh, we're okay now.
200.
Watch out for the fence.
100.
So look for the aiming point. Shift eyes to the end of the runway. Start to flare and bring the power back. Get it down, that's it. Reverse, thrust and brakes. Are we going to stop in time? Eek. We needed all the reverse thrust there. Just done it. We kind of ended up floating a bit there really, and I think we also had a pretty firm landing, so not a great one. Again, we'll just put the brakes on and we will have a look at the magic replay. It's a nice view there as we start our final approach. I'll just skip a little bit. As I say, I find it quite difficult to get the right glide slope without the PAPI lights. I guess that just comes with practice. Here we are. I think this is going to be pretty firm again. One plane spotter there parked up near the end of the runway. Actually didn't look too bad, but we were a bit long. I can't seem to have everything. Okay, so I think we're ready for our the last hop of our trip round some of the small Orkney islands. Let's get the map back. And we are here on Sanday, where we've just arrived from Stronsay, and the final island we go into is here, North Ronaldsay, and I would say that's probably about a 30-40 degree. Let's put about 35 in on the old heading bug just to give us a guide. So we're going to take off north from Sanday. We're going to head out here. And when we arrive at North Ronaldsay, we're kind of looking for this sweeping curve and this headland bit here as our aiming point. And the runway we want, let's go for runway 10. So again, we will come in on a kind of crosswind, join, turn and make a left circuit. So head out about 40 degrees, following the sort of edge of the bay here, and then head for this corner of North Ronaldsay. Right, checks. Flaps, approach, everything else. Landing lights are still on, auto feathers still on. Pitot height we've not used, but then we're at 15 degrees, so we don't need it. Bleeds are still closed. Transponders on alt. Let's get the head tracking sorted in advance this time. That's better. And right. Okay, we are ready to go. Yep, Right, full power. Brakes off. Essentially we're already almost on the right heading. It's a very slight right turn. I think it's quite a visual from once we take off here. Okay, we're airborne, gear up. Let's take her up to about 1,000 feet. I'm leaving approach flaps in because I don't want to go too fast. It's only a very short hop. You can already see the island of North Ronaldsay ahead of us. Straight ahead. Let's just start to trim and bring the power back. So again, we'll take her up to about 1,000 feet. So we're heading for that kind of sticky out headland bit on the island. Now, one thing I do know about North Ronaldsay is that it's home to some special sheep that eat seaweed, and the sheep are not allowed in fact to eat grass from the fields in the middle of the island. Maybe I think it's because maybe it probably makes them ill if they're not used to eating grass. So the sheep are all kept around the edges of the island on the coast where they can eat the seaweed, and there's a wall, like a dry stone wall, that people maintain to stop the sheep being able to get in and get to the grass in the fields, so they have to eat the seaweed. Yeah. Not sure if we'll see any sheep today. I think I'm already starting to see the kind of beacon, explained beacon thing there, sort of almost dead ahead. And the runway's on a bit of a slant. It's 70 degrees, so I'm just gonna head right slightly so that we can then, when we turn crosswind, we're kind of perpendicular with the runway. Descending slightly here, so I'm just going to trim up a little bit more. Yep, I think I can see the runway there. We seem to have picked up jerko vision from somewhere, even though the frame rate's pretty good. It's not scrolling smoothly anymore. Because there's something else running. Okay, and we are a bit right of the threshold here, but we're not too far off. In fact, we need to turn in anyway to line up at right angles. Whereas the runway we want there is the one left right. We can obviously correct as well on the downwind leg, but we should at least attempt to join crosswind at the right heading. There's the runway below us, so we'll just head this way for a bit and then turn left to go downwind. Let's do that now. And there's the end of the runway. You'll notice it's on some yellow fields. That might help us when we come to locate it when we turn final, if it's not too easy to see. Now we've got nothing really to aim for, although there is a kind of sticky out thing ahead, so instead I'm going to just set the heading bug on our current course and stick on that for 30 seconds or so before we turn base. And get away with that if there's no wind. Okay, let's say we're probably far enough out now. So let's reduce power and let's turn base. Again, being careful not to drop too quickly, and also watch our speed. And there's the island, and there's the yellow fields. I think I can just see the end of the runway, and I think we'll start our turn now to final. And I'm going to engage full flaps and put the gear down. Again, let's try not to balloon too much, but also let's not lose too much height yet. Okay, yep, there's the runway, slightly over. Let's just bring the power back slightly, because we are going a bit fast. Get lined up. Actually, we're a fair bit overshot there. The runway here is fairly short, so we want to try and make our aiming point
500.
We're doing okay. We've got gear down. We've got landing flaps.
400.
If anything, we're a bit shallow.
300.
Yeah, we're very shallow. Never mind. Should come down. Let's start to look at the end of the runway now. Just flare and power off. And brakes and thrust reverse. Thrust reverse. Propeller reverse. Just enough there to stop in. Welcome to North Ronaldsay. Let's put the brake on. We'll just have a quick look at this landing, although I don't think it's a very good one. I think it's probably fairly bumpy. Slightly one-sided. Okay, that's it for now. Really, we've made it to North Ronaldsay. We'll go off and see what the sheep are up to, and I hope you've enjoyed this attempt at island hopping round some of the small Orkney islands. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.